Hey, I'm Sam, Flying Kite, and welcome to the horror show. Today is week 4 or 3. I lose track, but I suppose that part doesn't really matter that much. Whatever week this is, what matters is what I'm reviewing. And as you see behind me, I'm reviewing Late Night with the Devil. It takes place in 1977. The movie came out in 2023. It's rated R. Kind of jumped myself a little bit. It's about an hour and a half. It was written and directed by Cameron and Colin Cairnes. It's about a 7. It's a wow 7 out of 10 on IMDb. Yes, first minute in, we're already going crazy. Really good movie. I would read the back of this, but I kind of want to just go about it, freestyle. Alrighty, so Jack Delroy, who's played by David Dastmalchian, who you've seen before. That's his face right there. That guy. Okay, there we go. We got it. You've seen his face before. He plays Jack Delroy. Jack Delroy is this guy who wants to be this big, late night host. He used to be a radio host. He signs with the company in 72, 73, or I'm pretty sure that's the timeline. It's like a 5-year contract. And he's on the show for, that amount of time, but a year or a year and a half or something before his contract runs out, his wife died and passed away. And so he, kind of went into hiding for a little bit and whatever. He didn't really know what to do, but then he came back to the show. And this constant idea of him trying to be number one. He's trying to be the best. He's trying to be the biggest. He's competing with Johnny Carson, right? He's trying to be the best. And this is a really interesting movie because if you're trying to be the best, there's probably a lot of things you would sacrifice. And by the end of the movie, you realize, or it's kind of led to your interpretation, what you think. But I think it's a bit more obvious, what he had to sacrifice. But then it's like, at the end of the movie, he gets what he wants, but was it worth it? And I guess I would say no, it was not worth it, but you can't go back now, right? But anyway, he comes back to the show, and it's nearing the end of his time, and the numbers are dwindling, and he's kind of falling off, and he needs one last-ditch effort to climb back. And it's like really close to contract time, so if he doesn't, then he's kablooey. He's gone. He has to go back to the radio. So he comes up with this idea to bring on these few people for Halloween night. He brings on Christou. He brings on Carmichael Haig. He brings on Lilly. Christou is a psychic. Carmichael Haig used to be a psychic, but now is a super skeptic because when he was a psychic, he just pretended to be a psychic so he could trick people, and then he was like, you know what, I want to stop tricking people, and I want to, start questioning it all. And then Lilly is a young girl who was a part, when she was a child, a part of this satanic cult who did a lot of, weird blood demon stuff, right? And they all died, but she was the last living person related to that, and now she has a demon in her. Her doctor, June Ross Mitchell, wrote a book about it, Conversations with the Devil. And so they're all scheduled to be on the show tonight. And then they start. In which, by the way, I love how the movie is filmed. There's the It's like watching a documentary where you're watching the show itself, and then in between the commercial break, or in the commercial breaks, you see the behind the scene kind of stuff, you know. And I thought that was really cool because doing a late night show during the commercial break, you have to do so much to get ready for the next, 5-10 minutes or whatever. So I thought that they did a pretty good job of how the movie was filmed and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, this was really interesting because of, how they kind of go about the whole night. So first, Christou was there, and he was doing some psychic readings, and then something weird happened. And then the next bit, Carmichael Haig was on, and then they kind of had a little thing, but Christou had to leave because he started vomiting up this black thing. He ends up getting taken away and ends up dying in the ambulance, but you don't know that until later on in the movie. But after the incident, it's Carmichael Haig, and then that's when they bring on Lilly and June Ross. And it was really interesting because first they brought out Mr. Wiggles, I think. Mr. Wiggles. Who's the demon inside of Lilly. And, the doctor is having a conversation with, she's bringing out the demon so that the people can see. She don't want to do it, but she does it. And then after that, then the skeptic is like, see, I can prove to you all that I could trick the audience as well. In which, that was a really scene. I remember watching the theater, and that was a crazy scene when the psychic is tricking people. But then they go back over the footage of both of them, and then you end up realizing that the demon was real. And then a lot of crazy things happen. A lot of people die. And when the madness is happening, Jack ends up in this weird state where he's kind of stuck in the studio. But it's this, he's kind of going over past things. It's kind of going back in time a little bit. But then you end up kind of seeing what was hinted at earlier, that being, Bohemian Grove. Well, they didn't call it that. They called it the Grove, but that's what it was talking about. Which, if you're not familiar, it's the idea that there's this place where elites and celebrities go to do crazy, cult kind of things. And it's like, if you want to, be big, that's kind of a place you would have to go to in order to be big, even though that's I want to be a movie director, but I don't want to go there. I don't care about the apples. Realizing that he, it was hinted kind of throughout the movie, but he was a part of that kind of club. And then you end up seeing that technically he ends up, killing his wife. Kind of like a mercy kill. But then that ends up turning into reality. He killed Lilly. And he's so confused, he's lost, he doesn't know what's happening anymore. And then you hear cops in the distance, and you just see the dead bodies around. Mind you, how they, you saw them die, so someone, was burned alive, and you see their body still there. But, he stabbed the girl. And he's gonna be famous, but for the wrong reasons. So, the Christian explanation of this movie, it's like Faust. The idea that, you make a deal with the devil, and you might get those things that you want, but is it worth it ultimately? It's like, yeah, was it worth it? I would say it was not. Because he ends up, it's like, did he kill his wife or did he not kill his wife? Maybe that's why he was so distraught, because, right? Or maybe she just naturally died and he was distraught. Ultimate point is he wanted to be the best, and a metaphorical selling of his soul. And he ended up being famous, but not for the reason he wanted. He was number one, but not for the reason he wanted. It is tough. So it's like, it kind of reminds me, in a sense, there's these stories out there where it's just like, there was this one story I remember hearing. I don't remember who she was, but it was this lady, and she had a dream where there's this person that was like, I'll let you, you want to be that big singer, sign this contract. And then she signs it, and then she wakes up from the dream, and then she ends up being, like a pretty big singer or whatever. But then something happens, and now she can't talk or sing. And she's in like a hospital or whatever for a long time, or wherever she's at for a long time. She's not able to talk or sing or whatever. But then she, turns to Jesus, and she ended up being saved, and her voice came back. And it's a really interesting story, because it's like a djinn. Yeah, not the Disney version of a genie. It's like a djinn, where it's gonna give you what you want, but in a way to make it so that you might regret it, or you could regret it. And, Christian explanation is that there's like one Christian character in this, or seemingly Christian character, and that's Gus, who's kind of like the sidekick. And he's always kind of like bullied throughout the movie in a sense, but, not bullied, he's put like a punching bag in the movie as the person on the show, and it's like, that's just like really tough. And he's getting real spooked, so it's like, I'm assuming he's Christian. But like, he's not super strong. Matter of fact, he's kind of playing into the, the show. He's playing into those kind of things. So it's like, there wasn't really a strong Christian character in the movie. And, a lot of bad things happen ultimately. If there's no light, then there's only darkness. If there's no good, there's only evil. And it's like, not saying that he wasn't a Christian or Christian enough, because, people have their struggles in life. And this was the 70s, where people were starting to be very lukewarm, or maybe not start, but they were definitely lukewarm. And, over the course of time, it's just more and more lukewarm. But, he's really nervous about the whole thing, and as the night progresses, he gets more and more nervous, but he still stays there and still ends up being a part of the kill count. And it's like, he chose to stay. He could have left. But, and then, like, there's no other, like, and then it's like, there's some other things are kind of, like, talked about and mocked a little, like, the skeptic talks about, oh, he went to Amityville, and Ed and Lorraine didn't want to go because he was there, and that kind of thing. And it's like, well, kind of some truth to that. It's, it's tough because, you watch The Conjuring and you're like, oh, they were so good. But, like, real life, it's like, maybe not so much, unfortunately. Question mark. It's tough. But yeah, I mean, I really like this movie. I really think it's a good movie, and especially the moral of the story ultimately, because if you have to push others down to get yourself up, or if you have to go to the darkness to, be huge, then, like, it's just not gonna really pan out well for you, I think. And that's kind of what happens to him. But I thought the movie and how they went about it was great. I thought it was really good. So let's go over IMDb real quick. I mean, the only thing about the movie I didn't like was that they used some AI in it. But take that out, then the movie's fine. The movie's pretty good. So the majority of people gave it a 7, and from the best, or from the most to the least, it was 7, 8, 6, 9, 5, 10, 4, 1 and 3 are tied, 2. So the least amount of people put 2, the most amount of people put 7. With it being an overall better movie than worse movie. And I guess it's already 16 minutes, and I mean, this was a really simple deep dive, right? Let's take a big 1 out of Alright, 1 out of 10. I can see its appeal. The first guy on the show reminded me of those televangelists who claim to perform miracles on TV. You know, the pastors who supposedly heal people, but often end up exposed for paying actors to pretend they were blind or paralyzed. Lol. Talking about the Christou character, I think. Watching the performance felt like flipping through channels on a 70s talk show. Being in the theater, it was as if we were part of the actual live audience, with the added allure of behind-the-scenes footage, giving it a documentary or found footage vibe, which I really did like. I can see why a lot of people enjoy it. Me. And if you do, great. The cinematography is good at capturing the essence of its era, and it draws you into its world. However, it's not really a scary story, but it just doesn't fit into any other genre besides horror, I guess. I can appreciate its originality and as just a regular movie, but as a horror film, it sucks to me. Horror movies are inherently supposed to evoke fear or make you squirm in your seat, but I didn't experience a single moment of fright. In my opinion, a horror movie must deliver on the scare factor to be considered good, even if the production quality, sets, acting, storyline are all exceptional. If it fails to elicit any fear to me, it simply sucks. But he says another word there instead. I always reassure my easily frightened friends that horror films aren't as terrifying as they used to be, aren't even scary at all. And even those who've been hesitant to watch horror films their whole lives come away with the same verdict. It's incredibly frustrating when a horror movie is nicely crafted but lacks any genuine scares. It pisses me off. I probably sound like a broken record if you've ever read my horror movie reviews for like Pearl, but for instance, but horrors should be scary. And it's like, I get that. Horror movies are supposed to be scary. That's like kind of the point of scary movies. And so it's like, if you watch this movie, do you get scared watching it? There's like a couple of moments where you could be, but I guess it's like, is it scary or just disgusting or disturbing? Because it's a bit of a difference. I think that's a pretty good review, and I could totally see that. But I guess my thought about horror movies are a bit more than just scares, though, and it's like, that is definitely a part of horror movies. But if that was like, if maybe it is the biggest thing, but there's a lot of movies that would be considered horror movies, but maybe they shouldn't be, right? Like, I'm trying to think real quick. Well, I mean, okay. If he's gonna give this movie a 1 out of 10, then I have to know what else he said. This guy, came on in 2020. But I guess I'm just really curious about other horror movies. that I know. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, horror movies. Come on, let me see. Like, to be fair, I haven't seen it. I gotta find one that he watched that I have seen. Because then I could give, okay, is this guy legit or... Is he legit or no? Like, I mean, okay, alright. I haven't seen this movie, but I could easily say this, I think, unless... No, this should be what I think it is, right? Wait a second. Is this the movie I'm thinking about? Yes, okay. Alrighty. Alright, the problem with that guy's argument in his review for Late Night with the Devil is that he gave Tarot, which came out, and I lost it, that's great. Tarot came out in 2024, and he gave that like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. And it's like, if there was a, well, what's more of a horror movie? This or that movie? That's like more of like just a made, like, a cash grab movie. But this is like an indie-ish kind of movie that's like actually trying to, I don't know. I just find that so weird. I just find it so weird that he would go and be like, Late Night with the Devil is a 1 out of 10, but Tarot is a 5 or a 6 out of 10. That's like someone, in my opinion, going and being like, John Carpenter's The Thing is a 2 out of 10, but Cockneys vs. Zombies is 8 out of 10. Like, I don't think the scares are the problem there. I think it might be your attention span. Because Late Night with the Devil is a bit of a slow burn. It's a little bit of a slow burn. It's just, this guy's review is just... his review sucked a little, bro. Like, I don't think you could say that Tarot is like a 6 out of 10 and then go and say that... I mean, he was saying that the new Strangers movie was pretty good, and it's like, he gave it a 5 out of 10. So it's like, I already kind of have some problems with it. But like, if he has another one that's like, okay, then like, I'm just whatever about this guy. Okay, now I actually have a problem. Okay, The Devil Conspiracy. I watched this movie a year or two ago for Body Bags. He gave it a 4 out of 10. Like, okay, that's just crazy. Like, it just feels like... I mean, The Devil Conspiracy is an interesting movie, to be fair. I mean, it's an interesting movie, but this guy, I don't know, he's a really silly guy. I think my metaphor earlier about The Thing and Cockneys vs. Zombies is a good metaphor, because if I were to go and compare Devil Conspiracy in Late Night with the Devil Conspiracy on IMDb is like a 4.6 out of 10, and I would probably give it like a, you know, something like that out of 10. But like, I feel like Late Night with the Devil is just an overall better movie. And that the only reason someone should give Late Night with the Devil a 1 out of 10, ultimately, is because it uses AI, in which there are some that did. And that's literally the only reason. Or if you're someone who needs something to actually happen every 5 minutes, in which technically stuff does happen. It's just... Like, I don't know, this guy is just really silly in my opinion. Like, It needs to be scary. Like, then that's like, he better, like, if I were to go on this and then, oh, dude, this guy, this is hilarious. Okay, there's this movie I never watched, but I am familiar with it, called The American Society of Magical N-Words. I'm not gonna say it because I like to keep my YouTube channel. But he gave that a 3 out of 10. Which I would be like, yeah, I would probably give it something like that too. Because I feel like it's super uber biased. But like also a bit silly near the end of the movie that's like, it's biased but it's not self-reflecting, right? It's like, it's like, if someone's at a green light and they're still stopped. Like, can't you see the light's green? So that's just like, I don't know, man. That's just crazy. Like, he thought that movie was better than Late Night with the Devil. And I'm like, to be fair, I am a horror movie person. But I mean, like, what I was gonna say, it's like, you gotta, if he's like that, then he has to have all the Universal monster movies by default 1 out of 10s. And the only reason why they wouldn't be is if he's like, oh, well, you know, respect for the old movies, right? You know, the classics. And like, yeah, but like, they're not scary because they're not making you shiver or jump out of your seat or whatever. Not sure, the American Society of Magical, you know, blank is not a scary movie. So, you know, different, you know, qualities and whatnot, but I would still go and be like, Late Night with the Devil is just still a better movie, ultimately. But, anyway, I think that might, like, I mean, he thought Madam what, dude, what are we doing? I'm gonna be done now because this he's now pissing me off. I'm Sam, I'm Flying Kite, this is the horror show, I did Late Night with the Devil, and I'll see y'all next week. Goodbye.